Hey guys! So one of my students kept making mistakes with too and too much. For example, I told her that I bought this for like 15 bucks. So this is a kid size XL and it was on discount and I got it for 15 bucks and she was like, wow, that's too much, cheap. And there's like several mistakes there. So my goal was to teach her that, but not just give her that information, kind of help her struggle a bit and figure it out on her own. So what I did is I gave her a few examples. And first, I wanted her to tell me which ones she thought were correct. These are the sentences that I gave her. I'm going to put them right here. So the tickets were too expensive, the tickets were too much expensive, the tickets were too much, and the tickets cost too much money. Her job was to find the correct sentences. And she made one mistake, but I helped her figure out which ones were correct. Then I gave her some more sentences and told her, look, we use too and too much a bit differently. See if you can figure out what the difference is. And we've just recently learned different parts of speech and practice. So she's aware of the difference between like verbs, nouns, adjectives, all that stuff. So I gave her these examples. I was too tired, so I didn't go to the party. They asked for too much money, so I didn't buy it. My friend was too excited to sleep, so we went to McDonald's and grabbed some food. And there's too much work. At first, she was like, well, maybe we use one to describe ideas. And so I highlighted the parts that I wanted her to pay attention to, which were too tired, too much money, too excited, and too much work. And surprise, surprise, she actually figured it out. She told me that too comes with adjectives, and later I added that we also use adverbs. And too much comes with nouns. But there was still one thing that she was missing. So she could say, for example, oh, today I'm too excited because it's Founding Day in Saudi Arabia. That's where she's from. And it was like, too excited? Okay, I'm going to give you a few more examples and tell me why, what is something about the connotation of the word too that is interesting. So how is it different from very, for example? And I don't remember the examples that I gave her. Like, for example, something was too expensive, or I wanted to buy some used clothes, but I kind of looked at them and they seemed like they were too old, or it was too hot. I was really uncomfortable. I was too excited to sleep. So I just decided, I don't know, I guess that wasn't one of the examples. But the point is, I gave her a bunch more examples. And from that, first, she was trying to look at grammar. And I'm like, and she told me some things that were correct, some things that we've already talked about. So the next step was me telling her, how about the meaning? What do all of these have in common? And she couldn't figure it out. So then I was more precise with my question. I was like, what about the difference with very? Like if you say that something is very far or it's too far. And at first she couldn't figure it out. So I gave her more context. I'm like, well, this is very far, but I think I'm going to go. And oh, that place is too far. I don't think I can make it. I don't have enough time. And so finally she figured it out that when we add to, it's usually in some way a bad thing. So then I wrote the sentence that she said in the beginning, because I took a note of it. I wrote on the board, it's too much cheap. And I asked her, so what's the difference? First of all, is this correct? And she told me, no, cheap is an adjective, so we can't use much. It's too cheap. And I told her, so what's the difference between too cheap and very cheap? And she told me that too cheap is like probably poor quality. And very cheap, it can be a good or a bad thing, depending on the context. Yeah, like if you say, yeah, I went into this souvenir shop and it was just like this crap from China, very cheap stuff. Or if you're like, wow, this shirt is great and it's very cheap, awesome. Obviously now it's a good thing. So first of all, I wanted to tell you about the difference between too and too much. But also I wanted to kind of tell you how I do this with my students. It's usually better, like it's not always possible, but it's usually better to help the person discover this stuff on their own. There is a much higher chance that they're going to remember it for a long time. The struggle really matters. So whenever you're learning something, whenever possible, it's good to get an opportunity to try and figure out the rule on your own. It's not always possible. Sometimes it makes sense to just take a look at the rule, and that's fine too. But if you have a teacher and they're doing this kind of thing, usually it's really, really good for you. So write 2 examples in the comments below, one with to plus an adjective or an adverb, like too old, too tired, too excited, too, I don't know, whatever, too fast, too slowly, and too much with a noun. Yeah, too much work, too much homework, too much time. Write 2 examples and I'll give you feedback in the comments. I'm going to tell you if it's correct or if there's a mistake. And if you found this interesting, give this video a like, and I'll see you